You had to sing, didn't you?
It's that time again. It's the Berkey and the Badger Board Game Babble Show. It's going to get wild. It's going to get wacky. It might even get a little zany. We're going to talk about board games and the board game industry. And, you know, we might talk about anything else we want to talk about.
We're live. It's the Berkey and the Badger Board Game Babblot Show. And hello, Babbleites, and welcome to the Berkey and Badger Board Game Babble Show and my wonderful kingdom of Babblot. I am your rightful honorable ruler, King Berkey, and I'm the host of this elegant podcast, streamed live on YouTube through SteamYard. Yes.
Ooh.
Direct from Babblot, where everyone is a board game enthusiast, from your humble king right down to the lowest hedgehog hairdresser. Say that 3 times fastly and you win a prize.
Fastly?
Fastly, yes.
You're sounding like Mr. Trump.
That's a kingdom word. Well, talking of the lowest of low, as he interrupts me, welcome the court jester, Sir Badger the Brave.
Well, hello, sire, and hello, Babblites. I see that we already are being graced in the castle by the wonderful Rick Ortloff and the Dice Odyssey. Good evening to you. Good morning.
Yeah, Dice Odyssey. Kaz. All right, brother. How are you?
Yeah, I think he's doing good. Jawohl, Meister.
Wunderbar.
Okay, so this is episode 72, which is called Where is the Immersion?
Yeah, where is the immersion? I just immersed a bunch of vegetables in a marinade to put on the grill. Is that the right word? Immersed? Is that what you're talking about, or are you talking about something else?
Where is the interruption? That's what I want to know.
Well, we have a lot of that.
We have a lot of that. So what we're going to do is, in this show, we're going to quickly talk about what's been going on in Babblot, and then we're going to do a roundup of rumors in things that make the king go cough. Yeah, things that make the king go cough. And then we're going to take a trip down to the dungeon where we have our special guest. There he is.
Oh, look at him. Vincent is in the dungeon.
Yes, Vincent Lucky Duck is in the dungeon with us to talk about.
He is a lucky duck.
He is a.
Here I am. Hi, everybody. Let me out.
Welcome, Vincent. Welcome.
We will possibly let you out if you pass the 3-question test that we have for you.
Looking forward to it, absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen, for having me over.
Oh, it's going to be big fun. Big fun.
It will be big fun. You haven't told me the answers at all, have you?
I have. So tell us about what's on the show there, Sir Badger.
I just have.
Yeah?
Apart from that, we have our Babble subject, which is Where is the Immersion? Where we're going to be talking about what the people in Babblot have been babbling about, which is, what is immersion in board games? Do we need immersion in board games? And what's the best type of immersion?
Yes. Well, and we have a special guest today, which we're so thrilled to have, Vince from Lucky Duck Games. Now, Vincent, you need to help me out with your last name.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Vergonjeanne.
Vergonjeanne.
But I used to live in the US, and so my name for the American was Vergonjeanne. It's easier, Vergonjeanne. But you can just call me Vincent.
But now you're French then, correct?
I am, absolutely, yeah, from Paris.
But you live in Poland.
That's correct as well, yes. I actually met my wife in Ireland. We moved to San Francisco, lived in California, moved back to Paris. And it turns out, I've discovered later on, that she's from 2 Polish parents who, after 30 years living in the US, decided to move back to Poland. And they were like, why don't you come just for a couple months in Poland? You'll see it's great. And the couple months has been 7 years now. And with absolutely no outlook to leave the place. Met wonderful, wonderful people here. Like, I am blessed by an incredibly talented and hardworking team who is really putting together some fantastic board games, and is overall just such a joy to work with every day. So Poland it is.
I saw recently, I think you posted that you were having a get-together with Ignacy Cevicek from Portal Games, having like a big game weekend or something.
That's right. Yeah, it was this gathering of friends, basically. So Portal is just 1 hour drive from us. So
Okay.
I meet with Ignacy, I don't know, 3-4 times a year, and every year he invites me. We're about 40 people, and pretty much everybody is from the board game industry. Like it's just like a gathering of friends. Polish edition, if you prefer, and Ignacy being the one for I think over like 18 years or something. Like he's our grandparents when it comes to the industry. Veterans, I would say. He's a great gatherer. He knows everyone and put everybody in the room. And it was a wonderful weekend. Just board game, nothing else. So what could go wrong?
Well, that's fantastic. I know I got a bio from you, and it says that you're a veteran entrepreneur from the video game industry, and it's only been 3 years that since you founded Lucky Duck Games, and your publishing studio now focuses on board games. And in this short period of time, your company has grown into a multi-million-dollar publishing powerhouse selling board games everywhere in the world. And your recent focus is on hybrid storytelling games like Chronicles of Crime. And that game has sold over 200,000 copies. Wow. Congrats.
Insert sound effects there.
Mind blow.
Mind blowing. I know. Yeah. I mean, I basically created and exited 2 video game company. The first one was called Kobojo. It was we were 4 co-founders based in Paris, and we were called the French Zynga. Zynga was a big Facebook video game company back in 2000, from 2008 to maybe even earlier than that. And we were called the French Zynga. We basically had over 1 million daily active users on our French social video games. And then I moved to Poland 7 years ago, I told you, and I first created a company called Everyday I Play, focused on mid-core games. We kind of brought basically games like Clash of Clans, which it was not called Clash of Clans, but very much inspired by this kind of mid-core gameplay strategy games to Facebook again. And it's only 3 years ago that we kind of stumbled on board games. I mean, I grew up playing board games, didn't play them for like a long period of time. And it's through my brother that I got back into playing, rediscovering them, and then going nuts, like I'm completely addicted to this thing. Yes, I mean,
Right.
Yeah, mine is on the side. It's just that,
And the acquisition disorder happened.
yeah,
right?
yeah. Actually, as a matter of fact, though, it was well intended at the beginning. I felt I had so much to catch up. I wanted to create a board game company, and I felt I had 15 years to catch up on. So I just wanted to devour, like someone would decide to become a writer and like has all this literature to just read, just to get a grip of what has happened between the last Monopoly and today. The first board game for us was Vikings Gone Wild, or it was literally June 2016, which went very well.
I love that game, Vince. It's one of my favorite games of yours.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. It opened the path to the early kind of view of our company, which was adapting video game into board games. We have licensed many video game like Fruit Ninja, Jetpack Joyride, and more recently, what was extremely successful for us, Kingdom Rush, which was our first $1 million Kickstarter. I'm super, again, grateful for the community that follows us, and obviously the game designer, Jesse, Elana, and Senfong, who have put together this game, and the team that worked on it. But basically, the first part of the journey of Lucky Duck Games has been kind of transforming video game into a board game. The idea was to kind of bridge the gap for children and for us adults to take those known figures from the video game era and put all of us though around the table to step away from the device. And the transition to but we are in a transition today that was definitely brought by David Sicurel design, Chronicles of Crime. Chronicles of Crime has been quite a challenge to put together, but in a way we're better equipped than almost any other board game company out there because of the video game past we had. We have been able to develop the app side of Chronicles of Crime in-house with the CTO of my previous company. His name is Martin, joined us as the CTO of Lucky Duck Games, and we really bridged both of our past, basically our past of video game and everything we've learned in the first 2 years. And we have a Kickstarter on right now called Time of Legend Destinies, which basically is the continuation. It's actually 1 year worth of work, and of basically trying to develop new, innovative way to play story-driven, app-driven board games. And Destinies is a very big bet because all those games naturally sit on top of a cooperative gameplay, and this one sits on top of a competitive gameplay. It's very different, and it's and we're very, very proud of how different it is. And it was almost a year of hard work to get to really kind of crisply get this right, get the right amount of intertwining stories, the right amount of the right downtime, the right amount of things to do, so that each turn feels meaningful, and yet when you're not playing, there's enough information flowing out of other people's turns, so that it's interesting.
Yeah, no, that's actually Kabuki Kid is in the house. It's so good to see you here, there, Gal. So, question from our chat. Nicholas says, which board game?
Which board game? Well, it was Kingdom Rush. Which board game did I? So we created Kingdom Rush, Chronicles of Crime, Mutant, which is coming out, Jetpack Joyride, which is just coming out right now, Zombie Tsunami, Fruit Ninja, and Vikings Gone Wild. And Vikings Gone Wild was the first title we did, which actually Vikings Gone Wild was our own video game, because it was a video game created by Everyday I Play, my first Polish company.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, we're going to move along just to our quick segment here. Things that I think we'll just skip past the happenings in Babblot for time, Barry. But we're going to talk first about, do you have the poll results? You want to get those ready for the last show?
I have them ready, and let's see if the screen share works, because I'm a bit worried that there's a technical problem here. So if I disappear, I apologize.
No problem.
Screen share.
If not, come back and we'll do things that makes the king go
Oh, I've got windows open everywhere here. Luckily, this all can be edited out with the audio. Let's try the screen share, and
yay!
There it is. Yay, Doctor Who.
Wunderbar. Okay, take us into the poll, my friend.
All right, in our last show, episode 71, we were talking about gamer goals. Do you set goals for yourself? And so, like, the first poll question I have is, do you have any gaming goals? And 61% of our voters said that they set some, and they need some. Whereas the rest said no, life is perfect as it is. The next question I posed them is it your goal to play more? And a vast majority, 71%. That's a huge amount of people. 71% is huge.
Pick me.
Said yes, they need to set aside more time, where the rest said no, I play just the right amount, which is a nice thing to hear. We also then asked, is it your goal to stop buying games? And not many people said yes to that.
I thought that was really interesting. how many people are still in full-blown acquisition mode?
Yeah, 67% are still in full-blown acquisition mode and have space on their IKEA shelves, which is incredible. Is it your goal to go to more events? This one was pretty evenly split. 48% said yes, they want to see the world, whereas 51% said no, been there, done that, got a t-shirt.
So, Barry, let's stop on that one for a quick second. How many
certainly.
events did you go to last year?
How many events did I go to last year? I went to Paris Ludic, Ludinor, Essen. That was work. I was supposed to go to Cannes, but that fell through. And I went to a Pinel.
In UK Games Expo with us.
Oh, that was this year.
Oh, that's this year. Yep.
But last year, I went to 4 events. 3 of them were pretty local.
What have you?
About 2 hours away.
Did you want to go to more, or did you want to, or was that just right?
That was just right.
Vince, how many did you do last year?
Too many. The live publisher is a guy on a plane all the time. I have to say, as much as I travel a lot, we have been able to grow and to add people to the team that allows me to not fly as much. I used to do at least 6 or 7 shows in the US, so that was a lot of international flight, which is great for my air miles account, I guess. But that was not great for my family time.
Right.
I'm super grateful right now. We have, for a year and a half now, we have Anthony, who has been our full-time footstep in the US and has done an amazing job. And more recently, we have Leandre, who has joined our team in France, so that I also don't have to join and to go to France as often as well. And Leandre does at least 30 conventions a year for us, so that's a lot of presence. Wow. It looks like for this year, I will do probably about 7 or 8 shows. And one was special, because one was one where I didn't have a booth. It was Origins, and I so much enjoyed going to a show with no agenda. I mean, I had an agenda, obviously. I mean, I had a lot of meeting, but I didn't have to take care of a booth, and it was so enjoyable. I mean, it's just so special to go. Almost, you feel like a guest, like a normal guy. It's just gonna play board games.
Yeah. No, I totally.
Busy. Because otherwise, there is always a booth, right? If you fly somewhere, you're gonna demo games and you're gonna show things, and it's a wonderful thing. I'm not complaining, though. I have to say, I come from the video game industry, and in comparison, I am so happy to be part of this community now, because the video game industry is so cold, so anonymous. You do things in your back office, publish them online, and there may be people somewhere playing your thing. You get a couple comments on a website, and that's it. Here, we get a chance to teach the game, to meet people who play our games, and it's such a wonderful, human experience that nothing else. Hey, Leandre, Leandre's here.
I totally understand that too.
I am absolutely in love with what I do here, and as much as all those travels are tough for family life, right? They are also so fulfilling in many ways.
Yeah, last year I totally get it too, because going from being a board gamer and a media creator to going into manufacturing and producing a product, last year we did 11 shows too, and the focus becomes much more consumer driven than it is personal.
Exactly. That's the side of the game.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's another game.
So, do you want to go through the rest of that poll real quickly there, Badger?
Yes, I will do. Click. Okay, next. What was I talking about? Yeah, it was about, we'd be there. Okay. Is it your goal now to make more board gaming friends? And a good chunk, 69%, said yes, the more the merrier. Yeah. I do apologize. I did put the responses for these polls. So the 30% that said no, solo gaming and my gaming circle is complete.
Wow.
So
that's pretty high.
That's pretty high. And then finally, is it your goal to keep your collection to X amount? Yeah, my dyslexia is kicking in there. 42% said yes, and more, and my house will explode. Which
Boy,
is supposed to be any
we-
more, and my house will explode.
We've talked about this so much about culling our collection and the difficulty of doing so. I was talking to a really good friend of mine. They're downsizing their home. They sold their home. Their family has moved out, and they're moving into a more of a condominium. And he brought his game collection from 750 down to about 300. And he says, "Well,
that's a rough kill. That's a lot of game to get rid of."
oh, it's horrible."
I tell you what. What's rougher about culling is the logistic to sell to someone else. Selling literally shipping, wrapping, making the stuff. It's a lot. It's a lot of local logistic. It's so much job to get rid of them.
And he had a ton of party games and things like that he sold like 60 of them to one guy at a rummage sale for about nothing. But he goes, "Well, Berkey, it's because you've got a bunch of the games." And I said, "Yeah, but I'm in culling mode too, so don't count on me to keep a game."
Yeah, I find it easier to give them away. It's I did try the selling it online or on Facebook, and then there was like people were asking, "Oh, do you do? Was it Mondrelier or quelque chose comme ça?" I just said no. I'll just give it to my friends. There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. So it's like, yeah.
Fair enough.
So there you go. That was the poll from last time. We'll do another poll after this show, asking questions about immersion. It's very interesting to see how people vote. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, exactly. Well, with that, I think we're going to move on to our segment, Things That Make the King Go,
You ruined the surprise because I was just going to click the button and do it.
This is the Board Game News, where King Berkey reflects on some of the current things happening in the board game industry. Some may be good, some may be bad, but they're all things that made our king go,
So what is men making the king go, Well, I have a couple things. One thing that I saw in the news is that a couple employees were fired by Kickstarter. And supposedly these two employees were part of the leadership of starting and forming a union for fair trade practices, wages, so forth. And then they were let go, coincidentally. So there was a lot of hubbub about that. You can go online and see the Huffington Post and Slate and many different places online talking about the specifics of this. And I don't have an opinion on it. I haven't researched it and I don't know all the facts, just what we're seeing reported. But what made me go, is there was a company, and I must apologize. I saw it on ICV2 and I couldn't find the document. But there was a particular company that actually decided to pull back their launch date from Kickstarter, feeling that they didn't want to support Kickstarter because of this. So I found that to be very interesting, and I'm curious what your thoughts are about how this may or may not affect publishers with Kickstarter.
You know, you're talking to. I'm French. He lives in France, so I have to say, it's in my culture that no matter how annoying a union can be for, I'm a business owner, and I still remember the first time a union was created at Kobojo, my first French company, because Kobojo grew above 100 people, and starting from 50 employees, you have to it's not necessarily a union. The step one is called a representative of the employees, and it's I often travel to the US and come from a French background where social protection is very strong, and I have to say that I find sometimes the US work environment way more difficult and way less protective of the employee, and is often more on the employer side. I think that also in the French, I think, went too far away, like too far on that, and sometimes this overprotection is actually penalizing the people at the end in many ways. It's it's hard to discuss much of the fact here because we don't really know. I've read the counter argument from Kickstarter that says actually those employees were fired for other reasons. So it's hard to know if those two are actually just putting fire on something. So
whether Kickstarter has a union or not, does that affect you? Would you make a decision to run a Kickstarter based on whether they have a union or don't have a union?
I would say no, simply because I don't have any facts. All I know is that Kickstarter is really hard to beat as a platform right now. There's many other and I'm say that, and I'm still working with others for other purpose. For example, we work with Game on Tabletop, which is led by wonderful people based in Lyon in France. Really kind, hardworking. They put together this platform, but I was also honest to them that for my biggest international campaign, I cannot work with them because there's not enough registered accounts. And today, it's very much Kickstarter has put themselves in a situation very much like what Facebook or Google could be, which is they have managed to gather so many people. And it's so much simpler for people to be able to engage on a platform where they already have an account, they already put their credit card, they already have everything ready to go at the click of a button. It's just really hard to beat. I really hope that, and it's my understanding, at least from beside this story, that Kickstarter is a very good place to work at. And even those two people who were fired mentioned that they've been there for years and years and years on it. We're very proud of it. So there's always something that happened here that we can't really fully understand without much fact, and I don't want to even kind of go any further. And so I will stay blind of this. I will remain in my bubble and also admit that there's no better places for us to be today.
Well, it's obvious. Your latest game, Destinies, is actually right on Kickstarter right now. It just launched just a couple days ago, right? Yeah,
it launched on Tuesday.
That's fantastic. We'll give you a chance to talk a little bit more about that in just a little bit. Sure. I think the thing that made me go was just the fact that another company based on imperfect information made a decision to not run a Kickstarter. And I found that a little surprising myself too, because sometimes, people like to jump on a bandwagon, and I can understand that, but until a lot of the facts are really clear, I think we have to be careful to make those judgments, but we don't know. We really don't know.
I think it's too cluttered today.
Yeah. Another thing that made me go that I thought was really interesting is my good friend Scott Alden from Board Game Geek. They've been doing a lot of things behind the scenes to take and improve Board Game Geek. And Board Game Geek is a massive database, a massive amount of information that has been compiled over years and years, and making changes to this platform.
20 years.
Yeah, 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing task to make changes to that platform. And, programmers can argue what could be done, should be done, and all of those kind of things. But just a little while ago, we talked about the new Board Game Geek logo, and a bunch of people were making fun of it and having a hard time with it. And personally, I was like, "Hey, good job, go for it. Make a change. It's great. This doesn't affect anybody's life, whether or not they change their logo."
Yeah. There was no whistleblowers there at all, was there?
It just seems silly to me, but people are passionate about these things, I guess.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, they've made a change to the game mechanics segment on Board Game Geek, where they're actually listing a whole new list and refinement of game mechanics. The thing that made me go, is I applaud this. I really think it was wonderful. But one of the things I noticed, and Tom Vassell from the Dice Tower actually just announced this last Monday on their Board Game Breakfast show, that they're actually using acronyms, like 2 and 3 letter acronyms for the mechanic versus having it fully spelled out. So worker placement is WP, but several of the categories, it would be hard to determine based on the acronym unless you were really, to me, Board Game Geek already has some complexity, and this continues to make it a little complex in my opinion. So that's what made me go, but what do you think about that?
I mean, Board Game Geek is as you mentioned. I mean, his name where it's like, it remains like a
Bible.
Okay, let me rephrase. The board game industry used to be really a niche for geeks, which is this. This stuff carries well its legacy as of the time it was created and what it went through, being a little kind of bumped up by video games for many years. But it's true that as this hobby is really growing organically every year, probably as a side effect of these guys, Board Game Geek is going to be more and more a place where people come to and look at. And it's true that any further, like
enhancements,
making like bumping up the elitism of his understanding and his cap is certainly not helping. I mean, however, though, you can really see that anything that's casual, that's basically, for example, sold into outside of the hobby, it just will not be rated on Board Game Geek. And actually, it's really hard to even judge how much of this title have been sold as soon as they're too casual, because casual people will not come on BGG. So at the same time, my point is that it remains for a specific audience that's as kind of dedicated in large a part of their life to this passion, and so will be more aware of it. So there's on both sides, right? What's your thought, Barry?
Yeah, my thoughts are I'm just happy for any change. I mean, the site is a bit befuddling, but to make it easier access for other people, I think is a great idea. And I think they should just keep tweaking, because as we know, it is a big site which has millions of megabytes of information to change, and to change it like that instantly overnight is going to be a nightmare. And so I think the gradual changes are a good thing. And it's a lot easier to adapt to a gradual change than a big overhaul, I find. I mean, I've seen sites just change, like IGN changed instantly, and it was like, where the hell do I find my video game reviews? And I want PS3, not PS4.
Kabuki Kid makes a really good comment. She says that this is the Engelstein system, which is really kind of neat, actually, because Jeff Engelstein, who I consider to be just very brilliant man, a fantastic designer, good guy. His whole family is incredibly intelligent. But they came up with these categories. And so our taste as gamers in the type of games that we like is becoming more refined as well. So, for me, I love worker placement. I like area control. But now we're starting to see, different kind of card mechanisms, mechanic mechanism, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, I mean, what do you classify a Lucky Duck game with an app?
Yeah, app-driven.
Yeah.
App-driven. Yep.
And so I think that's going to continue to evolve, and I think it's good. And it made me go, So with that, we're going to move on to our sponsor of our show is Arcane Wonders. And we've been great friends of Arcane Wonders for many years. And of course, They are the home of the Dice Tower Essential line of board games, and these are games that Tom Vassell has brought to Arcane Wonders, and they have such a huge repertoire with Sheriff of Nottingham and Royals and Onitama, some fantastic games, and Mage Wars and Spoils of War. But recently, they came out with Architecture, which is just a fantastic game that you're going to see basically a card-driven city building construction type of game. And then they also have the game Dragon Scales, designed by Richard Lanius. And I've told the story many times that we had an awesome time play testing Dragon Scales in its prior Dragon Rampage type of presentation at Dice Tower Con one year. Love this game. Kind of semi-cooperative, great new theme relook. And they also have the game Volcanic Isle, which I got to demo at Origins this year. And this thing looks fantastic. Had a really great time playing that. And I'm moving quite quickly. I'd encourage you to go to arcanewonders.com and see these new offerings. But they also have a new team member on the show, or on their company, and that is Robert Geislinger from the Dice Tower, is now the new director and sales manager at Arcane Wonders. So many congrats to Robert, and we're going to definitely have to have Robert on the show. He's a good friend of mine. Love the guy. I think he'll do a fantastic job at Arcane Wonders.
Oh, yeah.
So you can check all those great games out at arcanewonders.com.
Moving right on to this.
Someone in Babblot has been a very naughty person and been thrown into the dungeons of Babblot.
The Berkey and Badger are nice people, and they're going to give them 3 questions to try and worm their way out of their prison sentence in What Game is Behind the Door?
So what game is behind the door? We are now deep in the dungeons with our special prisoner who has been caught committing crimes with his phone at the board game table.
He has a chronicle of crime in the kingdom.
Yes, he has a whole list of faces behind him.
His whole destinies is being directed now. He's like absolutely gone wild.
He's like a Viking gone wild. Oh. If only he had a jetpack to escape the prison. This is our game show part of the show where we ask our guest, Vincent here, some questions about board games, and we do it in a kind of quiz show kind of way, and we turn this into a game. So moving right on, for those of you that do know this show, we're going to ask the first question, which is, what is the last game that Vincent purchased? And we're doing this in a kind of 20 question style, but we're not going to do 20 questions. We're going to do 5 questions each, which is a total of 5, and which Vincent will answer. I keep meaning to say Vassal. Sorry.
But anywho, I'll go with it. You could full English. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Okay. It's just this.
The
brain.
I'm losing you guys. 1 second.
Oh, okay. So he'll be answering yes or no in responses, and we need to guess what this game is, the game that he last purchased. And you guys in the chat can join in as well. I need to hide the chat so I can't see. So
my internet started to get shaky, so I had to do a few tweaks. I'm back. Hopefully my internet will be better now. I'm ready.
Okay.
All right.
No problems.
Wonderful.
Okay. So we are now ready to ask you questions about the last game that you purchased.
So my first question, Sir Vince, is it in a Ticket to Ride size box?
Nope. Should I just say yes or no, or
you say yes or no?
You can say yes or no, and then you can tell me the name of the game if you'd like.
No, that's no.
No. Okay.
Is it a Euro style game?
Yes.
Okay. It's
Okay.
a Euro game. Okay. So now he's going to show us a component, right?
I'm supposed to show you a component?
Yeah, I forgot to tell you. It's in the show notes.
I don't have that box with me, gentlemen. So I cannot show you components. However, I can tell you that the component, if it was with me, will be.
Oh boy. Okay, so we're not doing components.
And his internet is going wobbly.
Woohoo! Kabuki Kid's laughing. Ticket to Ride size box. I'm nothing if I'm not predictable.
Okay, here I am.
He's back. Okay,
he's back. So I would show you a little house of a yellow color that will be about that size in plastic.
A little yellow house in plastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any guesses?
No, I don't have a guess. Do you have one?
Monopoly Junior.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay. So, is this a resource management game?
It definitely has some resource management to it. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Is this game been released in the past 2 years? And while he's thinking about the answer. Yes, everything is okay here. How are you, RV32? We didn't get your answer there. Sorry.
Sorry. I see.
Has it been?
It's been released recently.
Recently.
So in the last 2 years.
Recently. That's even better.
Here.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm definitely.
Okay. I'm going to go on. Describe a component for us, please, Vincent.
Another component?
Yes, please.
If I had the box, okay. Okay. If I had I would take this little red house, a little plastics, and show it to you right now.
Okay.
Plastic.
Okay, plastic red house, plastic yellow house, plastic green house, and plastic blue house. Good grief.
I'm glad he said plastic because I was just going to say I think it's Tiny Towns. But no.
Wood, actually. Tiny Town will be wood.
Tiny Towns is wood. Oh! Okay, he said plastic, but I don't know if these are plastic, but they're painted. I'm going to guess the new Stonemaier game, Tapestry.
Done. Yeah, actually, you did it.
I knew they were painted,
so
but I didn't know if they were plastic.
Yes, so they have this, and I was about to think, should they sound like, no, that's too easy. So, but each player also have their own. There's 4 different color, kind of a smaller houses, kind of a thing. And so I was kind of showing you this. Well done. I mean, this game has made so much noise. It's hard as industry people not to buy it and see what the fuss about, understand the next Stonemaier creation,
right?
And get to the bottom of it. So yeah, that was my last acquisition.
That's a good word. Acquisition. I must write that down. Acquisition. And I'll change the question sheet. So there you go. He's managed to foil. No, we managed to guess.
We guessed him. He is still in the dungeon. Yes,
he's still in the dungeon. There's still 2 questions to go, so he has a chance to escape.
Right.
Off to part 2.
The second question is, what is the game that Vincent is most excited about getting? And he's going to be drawing a picture, or he already has drawn a picture for us to try and guess. And for you podcast listeners, we will describe this work of art, this Mona Lisa.
Yes, yes. Show us your beautiful drawing.
Yes, I couldn't think of the name of the gallery.
So it's drawing, guys.
You can do it now, Vincent, if you wish.
Yes.
I'm so sorry I missed that. I totally missed it. I am a chess. I guess I should definitely stay in that dungeon for now.
Oh, we shall pull your toenails off now.
There you
Yes.
go. So here I am. I have my piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. Beautiful drawing.
And so I'm supposed to draw. I'm excited about something like this.
What game you're most excited about? That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pictionary style.
Can it be an expansion?
Yes.
Do I give too much information?
I like that, but he could be doing the classic blunder.
Okay. I'm doing it. I'm going full on drawing right now, and this is where I realize why I'm not an artist. And I work with people who can do it. Wow, this is tough. Okay, I guess I'm gonna do this like that, up, and there's the stuff here, and this little thing here is.
You know what?
Okay.
You know what punishment we can give him if he
what
plays
this
in?
is?
Okay.
Okay, pull it up a little higher.
Oh.
Okay, it looks like it's a roller coaster with like a Ferris wheel, and it's like a snail running down on the roller cart. It's an escargot. See the escargot.
I thought it was a breakdancing caterpillar with a lollipop.
Okay, there is a new theme park
Pretty
name.
bad.
Okay, it's an expansion.
So, what do you think it is?
Okay.
Was there
Out of a game that I love.
It's an expansion for Steam Park.
No.
Not Steam Park.
No. The last expansion came out about 2 years ago for that.
Okay, you're right. The robots.
Yeah, the robots is over there, and I translated the rules into French.
The name on the drawing. So as soon as you guys give up and are ready to let me out of the dungeon, I could.
It's fair. Oh, fair. Oh no, I've played the base
Unfair.
game. Unfair,
gentlemen. You were right.
Dun, da-da. Wow, wonderful. We are doing well, Badger.
We are.
Fair.
So why are you excited about getting this then, Vincent?
The game had so much. It felt so unfair, actually, that we're like, we're not sure. And then we played it a second time, and that second time we really clicked it because we knew what to expect. This game is so beautiful. Actually, I have the box right here. This game is so beautiful. I mean, the art of so engaging that we just didn't expect so much that into a game. But once we knew what to expect, we enjoyed ourselves, and it's one of the games that we've played a lot. It's a simple like attraction builder, and it just came out with a new expansion, which if I'm not, it's aliens and stuff like that. I mean, it's Have you guys played it?
Cool. So I haven't seen it actually.
Played the base game.
It's wonderful. I'm not going to bother you longer, but this is unfair. I want to say that I do not own any share of this company. This is pure passion. I love Kim's work and Mr. Clinton works. I think so. I mean, what's
okay?
I think he's frozen up again.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
I think the internet connection,
Yeah.
the internet connection in the dungeon is not so good.
If
One
you want
second,
to,
one second.
Vincent,
I'm going to try something else.
okay. And in the meantime, I will put up this.
This video was made possible with the help of Game Toppers. Upgrade your gaming experience with a Game Topper.
Oh,
And I am back.
Yeah,
I am
baby.
back. So I promise you, internet will work great now. I am in
Okay,
Poland. Go for it.
I was going to say, if it continues, you might want to just switch off your camera and just use voice only.
Fair enough. We may
Just so-
do that.
Yeah, because the audio does go a bit kind of R2D2-y, and we're having trouble hearing and understanding what you're saying, unfortunately.
I am sorry. My name is Vincent. It's
Yeah.
a pleasure to meet you. I have a crappy internet connection. Anytime,
He
you
makes
know.
great games, but his internet is crappy.
Yes, I made £1 million out of this, and I have.
Okay, part 3 of our game show.
Okay, the next question is, what is the current game which is obsessing Vincent? What game? I think I know the answer because he gave it to me. So this is all over to you, Berkey.
Oh, so it's over to me.
And he's going to do this with giving us 5 one-worded clues. Let's have a look in the chat. Let's see if Kabuki and the team there can try and guess.
Okay, being
what this
Juno
game is.
Berry, I get to use the chat. I'm going to go and turn it on.
Okay.
So my
All right.
first word is it's hard not to give too much clues actually. Am I trying to make you not know it, or am I trying to make you guess it?
You're supposed to trick us.
I'm supposed to trick you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one is gonna be called Illusion.
Illusion?
Yep.
Illusion. Okay. An illusion. Magic. Trickerion.
Oh, that was way too easy. Way too easy.
Did I get it right?
Oh, wow, crap. I mean, I just realized actually I cheated because I just see that the name is right there. Legend of Illusion.
Woohoo!
I didn't realize. I was like, I'm not going to say magic. I'm not going to say, oh, what about illusion? And then, well done.
You do know that I am psychic, don't you?
Well, now I do.
So why are you obsessed about this game at the moment?
So I had the pleasure to play this game this weekend actually, and truthfully enjoy my play of it. It's there's a couple of things that it does in term of worker placement. That's just I finished my game and I was like, I want to play this again so bad. And actually, it came also with I just played the core the base game is barely like 60% of the game. So I have this box which is this monster thing inside that has so much content. And there is so the game itself like obsessed me over thinking, oh, I could have done that, I could that, oh, and this optimization, oh, and then I could have done that. It's the kind of game that just works on you after time, and you're like, I can't wait to start over again and do it like this and like this time. And I just want to show again, I don't own any share of this company or anything. I'm just in love with their work.
Full disclosure.
This is such a beautiful insert, which obviously apparently doesn't hold cards very well, but also, and it's a ton of small thing, like all this little thing come in their own little.
Do you have a deluxe version or something?
And then each player have their own little thing. It's just tons of beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Do you have a deluxe version?
Yeah, it's a collector version. Don't ask me how much I paid. I don't want to remember, actually.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be replacing me in the future as the court gesture.
Well, this is the sad thing. I've had that game on my shelf of shame for almost 2 years, and I even bought a Meeple Realty custom insert for it. And the reason I bought it all is I heard Chris Miller from the Secret Cabal Gaming podcast. He loves this game, and I thought I got to get this game, but I just haven't had the opportunity to get anybody to want to play it.
Yeah,
and I hear it's a little bit of a learning curve, and just recently I put it in my other room, thinking maybe I just need to get rid of it because I haven't been able to play it.
I have to say I was grateful for one 30-minute video, incredibly well put together to learn the game. I will pass it on later on to you, but this video was created just recently since this collector edition has been, and this gentleman, I don't know his name. It's the first time I was discovering his channel. Did an amazing job to teach the game. But it is definitely a heavy Euro. Like it is one. I mean, we were 4-player and we played for about 2 hours and a half. But you know, like any Euros, it's like you need to sit down, listen to a guy talk for half an hour, teaching you all the rules. But once you play, you get in the flow. It's fluid. You have a lot of thinking. The rules are rolling. But you need this expert thing. It's just because of you need to listen to a guy for half an hour, 40 minutes, teaching you every subtlety, every phases, everything. And yeah, it's unfortunately. I was lucky to have that whole weekend with Ignacy to learn that game. That's the only reason why I managed to. Because like you know, we play a lot of not real games. You know, we play prototypes and the same game hundreds of times sometimes, you know, to make sure that when you play our stuff, it's great. So I spend more time playing prototypes or game in development than real thing. So this one really marked me because it was just the production quality, the gameplay just worked on me.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's renewing my interest. I think Paul Grogan had a rules video on it too, didn't he?
Maybe it's possible. Yeah, I didn't see it.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Well, that is our 3-part game show with our guest, Vincent from Lucky Duck Games. And we're going to move right on into the Babble.
We are indeed. We didn't talk about punishment, apart from staying in here for the rest of the Kickstarter campaign.
We're taking away his internet. It isn't good anyway.
We're going to tattoo you in QR codes. And now it's time for the Babble, 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 Berkey and Badger's board game Babble.
So, Vincent, before we get into the Babble topic about immersion, which I think your games do extremely well, could you tell us a little bit about your current Kickstarter that's going on right now with Destinies?
Sure. So Destinies is kind of the continuation of this idea of bringing story-driven, app-driven games to the market, and it basically is the fruit of a cooperation with a company that we absolutely love called Mythic Games. We approached Leonidas and Benoit, the two co-founders of Mythic Games, it was like 10 months ago, with this idea of taking their amazing, dark, fantasy-driven interpretation of the 100 Years of War of Joan of Arc with their incredible miniatures and kind of smash it with what we have learned through building like Chronicles of Prime and 2 expansions and work with many writers on this and basically try to create a new type of game. So this is not Chronicles of Prime. This is not an investigation. This is really a game that mixes exploration, deduction, RPG, and where basically each player has a secret destiny, and it's competitive. Each player is trying to be the first to complete this destiny, and to do that, the way you interact with the app is kind of think of Mansion of Madness, or like basically the typical Fantasy Flight game app-driven things, where basically you have point of interest, you interact with them, but here the difference is that the game is 80% narrative and 20% mechanical. We wanted to completely revert what actually typically, I'm going to talk about them, FFG has done with their app-driven, which is mostly dice sugar with a bit of narrative given through the app. Here, it's the other way around. The game is all about reading out loud a lot of stories and making tons of choices, about how do you want to confront and adapt based on what is up. And the key thing is that Pepper could not create what this app provides to the writers, because basically every point of interest you'll visit will adapt itself to the choices you have done. We even have an internal virtue counter that looks like how good or bad of a person you were, and based on who you're talking to, or even elements of the environment. There is an example, for example, there is an example that if you go to a source of holy water, but you did some not so pretty things before, the water will open in front of you because the holy water doesn't want you to touch it, and you can't get any water out of this source. So that's the key premise, basically. A game that really tried to bring a sense of narrative that is extremely alive. Actually, a lot of the reviewers use this description of as the game as a world that really feels alive, because people move, people die, things blew up, and tons of events. Everybody has his own little journey. I mean, and when I say everybody, I'm talking about the non-player character in each scenario. They really live their own lives and have their own goal, their own things. And this is actually some phase even more to finish up on the solo mode. The solo mode does not really, we actually debated for a long time what this solo mode should be. And ultimately, the final version of this solo mode is not that we simulate another player. We actually make NPCs kind of conclude their own thing by themselves on a clock. So you have a sense of readiness, because for example, a non-player character will be like, I need some help, sir. I'm looking for a horse. If you can help me, I have some beautiful gold and maybe some secret to share with you. And typically in the multiplayer game, this guy will be there until one of the player comes and actually give him a horse. Where in the solo mode, you will receive a message saying, oh, the person we need a horse has heard that someone is about to bring one to him in a couple turns. So if you want to sell that horse, you have only two rounds left, kind of a thing. So
I see.
That's Destinies.
Wow, it looks fantastic. Great production values and just incredible, gorgeous artwork.
Oh yeah,
Thank you.
much like that game. Much like that game.
Yeah. So actually, I just want to really thank Barry here, because he has helped us tremendously on this demo to actually kind of last minute give us basically each point of interest right now as an audio sound behind that really adds to immersion. And we're about to jump on that. And actually, this last step of having an app, I was like, oh, it will be so sad to provide this review to reviewer, this demo to reviewer, and not have that last dimension, which is audio, which is so rare to add to board games. And it's so helpful to drive emotions and immersions.
Absolutely.
So for like jumping in the wagon, like just 2 weeks in, like, I need some sounds. Are you available?
and I think that's a fantastic segue for us to go into our Babble topic, talking about immersion and what immersion actually means. What is it? And how does that make us feel? Tell us what you think Barry, let's start with you. Tell us what you think immersion is in a board game.
Immersion is that weird thing, which is when you're sat at the table, you're not really sat at the table. For me, it used to be when I was a teenager. It used to be I used to sit at the table, and I was actually that barbarian, which sits in this box right here. I was that barbarian walking around the board and discovering what was a room and what was a corridor and what was blocked off, and then seeing goblins in front of me and then rolling that dice to try and hit them to death. That was immersion for me. It was that, I wasn't in my dining room. I wasn't with my friends. I was with a party of heroes against some guy who was trying to take me out. And for many years, that's what immersion has been for me. It's been that shrinking down to size. But as my gaming tastes have changed, immersion has changed for me, because you can't do that with the mind. You can't do that with splendor. And so for me, immersion has changed over the years. It's a snake. And before I go on and give you my final conclusion about immersion and what I believe it is now, let's hear what Vincent has to say.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the subject of when we receive a prototype, it's often looked from a purely mechanical point of view. How do I have to think? Was it challenging? Was it fun the way I had to think? Was it? And actually, as a publisher, often the last mile is about how can we bring the extra layer of immersion. Or actually, I'll give you an example. Kingdom Rush, we add over 14 different prototypes. The way we do this kind of video game IP is that once we get the IP, we kind of have an open, closed contest, like an open private contest with about 50 game designers that are contacted, and out of the 15, Kingdom Rush, out of the 50, 15 of them provided. And so we saw Kingdom Rush, the real-time rolling dice, the turn-based, card-driven, and ultimately the one we picked was one that was fun, but also was giving us enough tools to bring back the immersion of being in the video game, to get back, because the video game itself has the sound, has animations, has all this beautiful art, the trees, the sort of road, and ultimately Elana, Jesse's, and Sensfong designed, on top of being extremely new and different in the way they were using pentominos to cover monsters, also provided us for a chance to have 3D towers, to have beautiful roads, to have all these little elements that visually brings you there, visually makes you feel this army is marching towards you, and as this extra mile of I would say casual RPG. It's like you don't even have to try hard. You don't have to think you're like, that you're a role player. The game really brings those elements to you that just puts you in the mood.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was just saying, the last mile of that is sound. And I was so excited to be able to put sound in Destinies. And actually, that was kind of a learning curve for Barry and I, because the two of us worked on Chronicles of Prime, and I was the one that kind of drove the idea of having that kind of a 10 minutes soundtrack, which did the job, but ultimately did not bring as much immersion as what we just did with Destinies. Because what we did with Destinies, it's not just a 10-minute soundtrack that kind of is blind of what's happening to you, and it's because sometimes the rhythm of the music might completely be off pace of what's happening on the stuff.
Right.
And by having contextual music or contextual sound, it brings this extra dimension, this extra sense to the idea of the immersion on top of the miniatures and the visual and the village with all these details and this little thing that really brings you there. And so what about you, Berkey? What do you think?
Well, it's very similar to what you folks are talking about. And I think you take a video game, for instance, games that you really got into. The reason you got into them is because for me, visually, you were seeing an environment that you were actually on. And the beauty of board games has to do with this tactile aspect. So components are like huge to me. Many of you know that Blood Rage is my favorite game, but having those miniatures on the table displayed and seeing them and feeling like I'm really going to bring out my mountain troll, or I'm really bringing out the sea monster now, or I'm fighting the sea monster and I see him over there at the shore. Yeah. All of a sudden, and then having that miniature painted creates another layer of immersion. And then when you talk about sound, I so totally agree that sound creates an immersion where my son is brilliant at this. He's painting miniatures, but he got a resin printer and he started making all kinds of 3D mechs for BattleTech. But then he plays Star Wars Armada. He was the world's youngest Star Wars Armada's world champion. I don't know if you knew that, Vince.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, Josiah's brilliant. He actually wrote the card for Grand Admiral Thrawn, wrote the story and the tournament play that Fantasy Flight now uses that card for, which is really pretty cool. But he immediately will put on a music track that will fit well. And we recently played a game of BattleTech, but we added a little RPG moment to it. And it ended up that we were all cadets training, and we end up coming in two teams of competing cadets, and there's tension between us. And we start basically a little brawl because of this tension between us. And that's the way it ended up. But we brought that immersive, story-driven narrative that creates immersion. And so you have a game that is really done well artistically, has wonderful components. You add items that are perhaps a sound element or a thematic neoprene game mat. I mean, when we designed Game Toppers, the whole reason we did that was a part of immersion. When we played on a regular plastic table, it was okay. It was a good game. But then when I had my dedicated table that my dad built me, it was like, oh, we feel so much more. This is awesome. But then to be able to take a portable version and then make an environment mat for the game. So like now we have 18 mats, but like our Viking mat, the art is done by Jaroslav Radecki, who did Reavers of Midgard. Well, Grey Fox Games was playing Reavers of Midgard at Gen Con on our Viking mat. Same art style, and yet it was this environment. Man, you just felt immersed in the whole thing. I always tell this little quick story, and this kind of just goes along with my thought about this. But
does it have anything to do with pirates going R?
You know why pirate jokes are funny, don't you, Vince?
Oh yeah.
They just are. So we have Mission Red Planet, and we have it all set up, but we had it on our adventure map. It looks kind of like Lord of the Rings, and we all looked at one another and went, something doesn't fit here. And then we were debating, do we take the game off the table, put the space mat on, or do we just play and just get over it? And we all just sat there and hemmed and hawed for a few moments. And we said, screw it. Let's just put the space mat on there. So we put it all away, put the space mat on, put the game on, played the game. Everybody just loved it. And it was like everyone at the end said, oh, I'm so glad we did that, because it created an atmosphere, a universe that was thematic to what we were doing. And so all of those things, to me, immerse you in the gameplay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So is immersion important in a game? That's the question. which I have an epiphany.
An
Because-
epiphany.
And
Oh, tell us about your epiphany.
it was a breakfast at Epiphany.
Oh, breakfast at Epiphanies. Yes.
Yeah, well, for many years, I used to think that it was sound, which was the closing deal for me to have that immersion in board gaming. As you say, putting on a soundtrack or listening to music, and then eventually when I discovered Sirenscape, I would put that on, and any board game that I played, there was something on Sirenscape that I could have playing in the background, even if it was just no music, it was just sound effects. But one thing that I realized is when you go out to events or when you go to a gaming association or gaming club, and there isn't that music, and there isn't that nice deluxe table, you still get immersed in the game. What is it that final touch which actually is the real immersion? Because as I said, for me it used to be music, but nowadays it's like, well, no, you know what, it doesn't matter if the game has minis or cardboard standees, the immersion that in the game is still the same. It could be the mechanics. I was thinking, is it the mechanics which is the thing which is binding this together? But then I realized I like playing Uno, and I get immersed. Uno,
Yep.
yeah, and I get immersed in Uno as well. But why am I getting immersed in Uno, which doesn't have minis, it doesn't have great art, it doesn't have great mechanics, it doesn't have music? And then I fell upon it. It's the other players. The other players are the thing which will immerse you the most in a game.
Interesting.
Would you agree?
I have to say, for example, actually, back to Tricarion, one thing that was very, very good about this game is that it was very good at immersion, because every piece of thematic was the theme in the game made understanding what you were doing so much easier, and so you were first trying to learn a trick from a great magician, then you were trying to buy at the market everything you needed to then set it up and train yourself back in your workshop, and ultimately go on stage and perform this game, this trick, and it's all very thematic. But as a game developer and a game publisher, often the length of a game is not an issue. Having a 2-hour game is not a problem, as long as it's for 2 hours. Players are immersed in the game, and it doesn't have to be sometimes thematic, because we have been talking a lot about the thematic immersion. The immersion can be so strategic. It's strategic immersion. Like, I'm trying to think of games where when I'm playing them, the theme is there, but it's not so much a theme. It's how much crunch time in my mind I'm having. What I'm not playing, I'm trying to decompose. It's pretty thematic, but Brass is one of those games where I'm not. You play a 2.5-hour game, and it's not so much because of the cold theme and the immersion of being a merchant. Honestly, it's not that paced on. It's beautiful what Roxy has done, but the game makes you think. It's not your turn, but you're looking at your card and how you're going to assemble this. And I could play for 2.5 hours and not touch my phone. And where sometimes you could play a half-an-hour game and being so bored and just, sure. Is it my turn? No? Okay, all right. and like having the most awful time. Even though it was only half an hour, it could be just really bad. So my sense of immersion as well is that it doesn't have to be thematic. As long as you're challenged in a way, as long as your brain is challenged, and I agree with you, Barry. As long as the other people in front of you engaged you, like the three of us are having a lovely chat right now, and we're all engaged into it because we're all part of it. We're all contributing to this conversation. We all have interesting to share, and I'm curious to hear your own answer on everything myself. And so I think it's the same kind of conversation that happened around the game. Yeah, and maybe this is what's immersion.
I think this is an interesting thought. because I was thinking about the questions we were having. What type of immersions are there, and which ones do we like the best? And we've covered a lot of them already, but
very quickly, yeah.
But hitting it from the other side, what are some things that maybe are hindrances to immersion? Things that cause a game not to be immersive, and when you were talking, Vince, right away, it was like, when there are games where there's too much downtime, when you're waiting too long for it to get to your turn, it causes you to check out. So it becomes less immersive because you can't stay, it's the games that you're in all the time that you're thinking about, okay, what are they doing? What am I going to do? But then when you disengage from that, it becomes less immersive. So what are some things like that possibly that hinder immersion?
Yep. Other players.
I think so. I'll give you examples. Having too much of a tactical game. So tactical versus strategic. Strategic, you're able to plan long-term. Tactical, you have to adapt to what's happened to you. And when a game is too tactical with too long of a turn, this is exactly when downtime strikes and when those phones goes back on the table and people kind of check out. This is a typical thing we look at as a publisher when we are developing games. And if this is showing up immediately during a play test of the game we haven't signed, typically this is not a good sign for us and probably something we will not take. If it's something that emerged out of a further design because we added too much complexity to something, or just, and so that's for me definitely one of the big way this is happening, and it's kind of a very strong pattern for that to happen.
What about I always think about this in terms of listening to Paul Grogan, because he's such a he really pays attention to rules and everything. But sometimes when you're playing a game and if the rules aren't clear and you have to break because you have to go back to the rules to reference, an appendices or something of that nature to continue on the game, does that hinder immersion, would you say?
I'm not sure if I caught you, Bert. I'm so sorry.
Okay, yeah, I'll answer that then. When the game is stop and start due to the fact that you've learnt the rules, you're playing, and all of a sudden you run into a question.
Yeah, okay.
And it's like, okay, right, go back through the rule book, and then there's this timeout where you're checking something, and well, if this contradicts with that, then this takes a period, and then...
Or you have to go look on a forum on Board Game Geek to find the answer to something.
It's the old... So actually, is the game streamlined enough that there is no 100 little sub things, and is the user interface and user experience self-sufficient so that you don't have to open your rulebook? Are the language on your card self-comprehensible so that they are just by themselves clear? And it's an ever-ending struggle, and this is definitely a it's funny because I never thought I would have this language in board game. It's something that was very big in the video game, which is user interface. It's all about sometimes user interface, and there's so much into the user interface of a board game, even though maybe this word sounds so digital, and there's a lot of that. I'll tell you what an example is. There is big savings to be made for publisher to have language independent components, because language independent components means that you can add the German, the Spanish, and the stuff. All this stuff in the game can just get all cheaper by having all this game printed at the same time. Just add the rulebook and the box in your own language. But it's a tricky business. It's a tricky business because it means that your UI has to be absolutely on point, so that what does this icon mean? I don't understand it. It has to be repeated everywhere. It has to be crisp.
And the size of the text. Because there are people who have old man eyes like me that need these now. And, you got all this space on the card, and then they've got this little 4-point font text.
Fair enough.
So 4.4 text takes you out of the immersion of the game, does it, Berkey?
Oh, it's so hard for me. And not so much that I can't read a card, it's that I can't lay it down and quickly read it.
Yeah.
And that slows down the pace, or I can't see across the table to read it.
Yeah.
You know, I've not found that with your cards. Your cards are very easy to read, but I think that's an important thing about all these items like that they're clear, that they're easily understood. I love Kabuki Kid makes a fantastic point. She says, a grumpy player who constantly is complaining about the game, even if you're enjoying it, they're hating it, drags it down for you.
Oh, it's so true. So true.
Yeah, again, it goes back to people. It's the people that are the immersion. I mean, going back to what you said earlier about rules questions coming up while you're playing, that normally happens on your first couple playthroughs. And I'm never expected to be immersed into a game after my first play of learning a game, because it is a case of, number one, it's in French, so it's doing that translation in my head. Number two, you're learning a game, and it's like, these are new mechanics, this is a new theme, this goes with that, and you're trying to plan out your strategy. And it won't be until like your third or fourth playthrough of a game that the immersion will kick in, because there will be no rule book, and there will be just the players, and there will be the game, and it's bang. And obviously, if you've got a nice mat, or if you've got some music playing, or if you've got a candle, you know, and that hooded robe, like what you have, Vincent.
I would say, though, I have to say that there are games that are literally player dependent. As soon as you talk about party games, you know, like, I don't know, like code names, or like Crypteria or the Mind, those will literally 100% player dependent.
Yep.
Yeah.
I tend to kind of stay away as a publisher from those. Those they can so like knock you back so hard if the game doesn't provide enough rails. And there are games where it's gonna be hard to get anybody grumpy, because you know, a good Euro game provides so much brain focus to everybody that it's unless you really have just a grumpy guy around, nobody can really ruin your experience of it, because they are not good at bluffing, or they are not good at something, or they are not in the right mood. Just though I have, you know, working with game designer, I think it's a game designer circle. Game designer tend to criticize everybody else's design when it's not theirs. This annoys me so much. I'm like, come on, sit down, enjoy your meal. This chef has cooked this for you. Finish it, and then let's discuss it. But please stop complaining about the cook while you're still eating the dish, because I want to enjoy it myself. I really look at it this way, you know, like when I go to restaurants, there may be ingredient that I don't like, but I want to trust that chef who put a lot of effort to say, I'm going to put this ingredient and this stuff and this thing in this plate. Trust me, take a bite, and then we talk. And I always kind of look at a game design this way. Okay, I'm gonna take your game, I'm gonna play it. I'm not gonna judge a bit of it. I'm just gonna try to swallow it in and try what was your intent, what did you want to do, and then finally judge it. And it's true that because I have this mindset of like always delaying my judgment to the after for dessert. I have a big trouble time when a couple of my game designer circle friends tend to be harsh immediately and not enjoy.
Give it a chance.
That must be hard for you to taste food which is prototype form.
I mean,
because
no, actually, I mean, sometimes you see immediately this is not going to work out. So but I'm talking about literally just normal board game, fully finished. Like,
here, try snake. It tastes like chicken. Here, try raccoon. Tastes like chicken. Just give me some chicken.
It's true.
So, shall we wrap this up?
Yeah, I just want to make a quick point too about player dependency. I think, for our family, for instance, when we're playing games, whatever we're playing, we're immediately going to jump into some kind of a voice or a character role when we're playing. If we're playing The Godfather, well, yeah, of course, board game theater, but I mean, that's an extreme.
Yeah, but there are people that dress up. I mean, Critical Role, when they do their Dungeons and Dragons, they dress up as vampires or elves. You normally see them with their ears, and that helps the immersion for them. They feel that they're that person. And surely you feel like the sheriff when you're doing Sheriff of Nottingham.
Of course, I'm the good sheriff. Or if we're playing Godfather, I always say, "You come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding, and they'll say, Godfather, when did I ever refuse an accommodation?"
Except for when it's.
But that's who we are as a player group.
Yeah.
You get somebody that is really straight and doesn't like that. They just want to play the game. Just get to your turn, do your turn. I just want to play the game. I mean, that can really affect. It's not necessarily the game's fault. Sometimes it's the players group personality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so in choosing the kind of games, if you want to have an immersive experience, if I have a gaming group that are a bunch of engineers, and they just love a heavy, dry Euro. Well, they don't want to have a lot of social time. They don't want to have a lot of screwing around, goofing around time. They want to get at the game, figure it out, and do the best they can. So you pull out a game that immerses them, like Power Grid or something like that, and it's player dependent, and we all immerse in that way. But then take my family, we grab Sheriff of Nottingham or Spoils of War off the counter and have at it.
Yep.
Yeah. I've got one spanner to throw in the works. I'll put this up. I don't know why.
But I didn't read it yet.
Okay, sorry. Kabuki says, when you have that one guy who wants to just play mechanically, there is a different experience. I agree. But one spanner in the works for immersion. If you're playing solo, you don't have the other player to play off of. You are relying on the mechanisms of the game to immerse you. Because again, when I'm playing Seventh Continent, it's not the music in the background, which I've already done. It's the story on the cards. It's the mechanisms and the challenge which immerses you, and it makes you want to turn the next card, and it makes you want to spend 5 cards instead of 2. That's the mechanic there, that's the immersion there. But
tension.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I would say there is also a good immersion in solo is this capacity to be imaginative and curious. I think some people just can't play solo, and typically is because they will lack this inner imagination and this kind of like capacity to really entertain themselves without the presence of others. And I think it took me a while to get into solo board gaming, and I finally broke through it, and I started to really enjoy it a lot more. And that pivot moment was for me to say, you know what, Vincent, stop thinking the way you play when you play multiplayer. You're by yourself now. Why don't we tell each other this story? And really get myself a little bit more creative and kind of have this capacity to project myself through this, especially Seventh Continent, which I've played a lot solo. Having this extra mile of imagining things and kind of bouncing with yourself, those ideas. This really helps.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. We've talked a lot about immersion in board games. We're going to put up a poll, and Barry's going to make an awesome poll about what is immersion for you.
It's going to be great. It's going to be a huge poll.
Huge, believe me. It's going to be the most luxurious poll you've ever seen.
Yeah, and 1,001% of people will vote on it.
Oh, it'll be bigly, huge. When you fill out this poll, your ratings will go up, believe me.
Yeah, and you can cook an egg on it.
Hey, Vince, this has just been an absolute blast having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us on the show,
Thank
Vince.
you very much.
It's been my greatest pleasure, gentlemen. You're wonderful lads to chat with. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, tell everyone else a little bit more. This here show is going to be professionally edited and actually gets a lot more play on iTunes and on Stitcher Radio in the professional audio edit. But how can people get in touch with you, Vince, and how can they get in touch with your latest Kickstarter?
Sure. So luckyduckgames.com or facebook.com/luckyduckgames. We're very active, very present. One thing that we're very proud of is that actually as a company, we're very accessible and we try to, like, I'm personally as much of a consumer as a creator. I'm on a lot of board game websites. And so if you shouldn't have too much problem. And Destinies, if you just open Kickstarter.com, I'm grateful. We are in the top trending worldwide right now, so we should just show up. If you click like trending, you'll be able to find
Star and it'll be there.
Yeah, this will be edited, so it might not be. So Time of Legend TIME. No, I'm kidding. I'm grateful if you spend a few clicks to check out what we've done. Thank you so much.
Oh, not at all. If you didn't catch some of the playthrough there that Barry was showing of Destinies on Kickstarter and listening to Vince talk about this, please check it out. This thing really looks fantastic, and I hope it goes to the moon for you, brother.
Thank you very much. So far, so good. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Well, we'd also just want to give you a quick announcement too, that you can still late pledge for a game topper. You can have a portable game topper solution that converts every game you play into a high quality gaming experience with lots of different thematic game mats, amazing accessories and storage solutions, and a variety of different sizes. And of course, there, Sir Badger has one of the game toppers in his portion of Babblot.
Oh, yes,
but you can
South End.
You can late pledge and still take advantage of over 40 unlocked stretch goals. And that's going to be open through the end of the year when we have fulfillment in March. So super excited about that. Thank you all for your support. And with that, you can catch us, Barry. Where can people get a hold of the Berkey and Badger Board Game Babble Show?
You can find the Berkey and Badger Board Game Babble Show on BoardGamesEverybodyShould.com website, along with all my reviews, music, and Berkey and Badger Board Game Babble podcast thingy. You can also find it over on Kevin's site, which is BoardGameTheatre.com, and we are practically everywhere: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Twitter, Twitch. We're not on Twitch, but maybe we'll be on Twitch, and then
everywhere. Just type in Berkey and Badger, you'll find us
everywhere. We're so huge. We're everywhere.
Huge.
I mean, we're on Twitter and pizza.
Oh, we're really good at doing tweets. We really know how to do tweets.
We tweet.
And our tweets have never been infiltrated either. And never have been influenced. Trust me, believe me when I say huge.
There's no collusion on your Twitter.
There's no collusion on my Twitch. We have no Russian influences. We have no other influences. We don't know what we're doing, frankly.
It's in my spa.
All right. Well, with that, thank you everyone for joining us on the show. And we'll be back again with another Berkey and Badger Board Game Babble Show in a couple weeks. Barry, send us out.
We're so glad we had this time together. Now it's time to go. It won't be long until we have another show. So keep us in mind, get online. Berkey and Badger will be back in no time.
Woohoo!
Hey, thank you so much, gentlemen.